And
Right.
we are recording.
We are live on Las Vegas Triathlon Club Facebook page. We're recording. I'm John Mercer, president of the Las Vegas Triathlon Club. Got a member spotlight tonight, a Thursday, and got co-host Bob Gamble. Hey, Bob, how's it
So,
going?
folks, I'm doing fine. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, good to have you here. And it was fun when we were doing that group ride. Was it just last weekend?
I want to do that again so bad. That's a wonderful loop. And it was good to your own pace and talk to everybody as they were passing you, or on a rare occasion, you're passing somebody else. So,
Yeah. Well, and we were riding, and all of a sudden, this guy comes up on us, and it was
yeah,
Alex.
yep.
That was great to run into Alex during the ride, and tonight we convinced him to do the member spotlight during that ride, and that was great. Alex has had quite the year, and we're going to talk about his Epic to Zero event, and that was really fun to watch and keep up with him as he went along. But Alex has a really good triathlon story. It'll be fun to talk with him about his background as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Bob to do the official introduction for Alex Simon.
All right. Well, as John mentioned, we do have Alex Simon with us tonight. And Alex not only is an amazing athlete and triathlete, he's got some pretty interesting stories.
Mhm.
And we're going to get started with him in a second here. And I'm going to have to ask him to explain his shirt. He'll do that for us. But also, Alex joined the club in 2018, and that was his first triathlon as well, 2018. And within a year, Alex was doing a full Ironman. So he went from club sprint, 70.3 full Ironman in a year. And Alex is also getting ready. He'll be going up to Oregon tomorrow morning to do the 70.3. So we're going to talk to Alex a little bit about his race coming up. And Alex, we're really glad to have you. How you doing?
Thank you, guys. I'm doing great. I appreciate you having me on the show. I'm not sure I'm worthy of such an honor,
Oh, you are.
considering
Don't worry about that.
considering my brief and somewhat uneventful triathlon career, but happy to be here nonetheless.
Okay, now when we get started, we're going to talk about your triathlon and your training and how you're training in the heat right now. I've ridden with you a few times. Explain your shirt. You've got a 20 with an interstate highway sign on it. So what's that all about? Tell us about your shirt.
Yeah, okay. Well, my shirt, this is US 20, and it basically is a shirt that I got while I was crossing the United States earlier this year on electric scooters.
Okay, now we're going to have to stop right there because a lot of people are going to say, you did what? So Alex went across the United States on an electric scooter. And we're talking across the United States from Atlantic Ocean to Pacific Ocean. Mm-hmm. And so I know a lot of people are going to hear that and say, wait, what? So tell us about that. Why'd you do that? And tell us about your trip.
Yeah, I, last year, about this time, I was just a guy going about my life, trying to get through the pandemic. And sadly, my dad passed away. And when he passed away, my dad was an environmentalist in Brazil, where I grew up. And when I went back to, for the funeral and whatnot, I met a lot of people that he impacted in his life. So I started thinking about my own legacy, what I was doing, for the world. And I was pretty disappointed at my efforts. So I decided, you know what, I need to change. I need to become a better person. And I want to do something big and impactful to honor him. So I decided I was going to pick a cause and I was going to do a big event. So I decided, earlier this year to cross the United States on electric scooters to promote micromobility, which is essentially, means of transportation. There are like e-bikes, electric scooters, skateboards and stuff like that to reduce pollution, reduce traffic. So I basically adopted the cause, put together this trip, got sponsors, dealt with the logistics and figured out how I was going to do it. So I decided to take US 20, which is the longest road in the United States, as a matter of fact. Wow. It goes all the way from Boston, Massachusetts to Newport, Oregon, coast to coast, 3,365 miles. So yeah, over the course of 29 days, I rode about 100, 120 miles a day, which is about 8 hours a day on electric scooters. I had a support vehicle that followed me, and got it done. And this shirt, I got it, halfway through the trip, and it has every city, all 300 of them, that I crossed on my journey. So there it is, Bob.
That's awesome.
The 20 on my shirt.
I mean, that's incredible, both from the way you picked a cause and actually went out and did it. I mean, that's an inspiration too. I mean, and to bring attention to the fact that our transportation is gas guzzlers, and it's just really affecting, the climate. It's affecting, the pollution and using resources, and so that's awesome. That's an incredible.
Well, what a way to see the country too.
That too.
I mean, you see it entirely differently when you go that way, even by versus car. But no, I agree. What a great cause, and really admirable what you did. Just reflecting on your life and what you wanted to do, and obviously your dad inspired you, and I'm sure he'd be proud of what you did. It's really very impressive, and I know you were being followed by people around the world, and doing lots of communication, and you've impacted people in many ways, and so that's really, really fantastic.
Yeah, it really became quite a big trip. It started as just me trying to do something crazy to promote a cause, but yeah, I mean, tens of thousands of people followed my trip. I still get messages from all over the world, and I did impact people, which was great. I did a lot of media, so I was able to promote the cause, and we could of course talk about the trip, which I did on many other podcasts, which are not triathlon related, and I've spent many hours talking about it, and we could, but I just wanted to give you guys, a little summary of what I've been up to, and it was an incredible trip. But if anybody that's watching this has any interest in that, if you go anywhere, any social media, Zero to Epic, ZeroToepic, Facebook.com/Zero to Epic, Instagram, username Zero to Epic, ZeroToEpic.com. You'll find all my pictures, all my daily updates, all the good things that happened, the bad things that happened, all the sites I saw, and you can spend all the hours you want checking out the trip. But it was quite epic, literally, and it's now it's over. I decided to go back to triathlon after my trip. I needed another adventure. So let's get into talking triathlon, which is what I'm here for.
Well, I got to at least say I enjoyed, especially the beginning part of your trip, because I drove a lot on 20 between Albany and Buffalo, and you went through a lot of the stomping grounds that I went through. But I see a pattern here. Zero to Epic isn't probably something that you just came up with, because it sounds like your triathlon career was Zero to Epic as well. So
yeah,
how you got started.
Yeah, it's pretty much how I live my life, and I know we're short on time, but I'm quite an unusual character. I do crazy things, and I've ran marathons without any training whatsoever in my past. So I enjoy suffering and punishment. Yeah, so here I am, 6 weeks to a 70.3. I'm signed up to do a full Ironman in early October. So that's 4 months, basically couch to Ironman in 4 months, because I haven't done any training in a couple of years. And but I welcome the challenge. So I love going from zero to something epic, and along the way, hopefully inspiring people to do more and do better and believe that they can do things. And I'm not a 20-year-old, so I'm definitely on the wrong side of 40, which is not old. But again, I'm not exactly at at my peak, but but still plenty of years ahead of me, and so back to triathlon and back to training.
What I love about that is you're showing people that you can take on a challenge like this in a way that's manageable, and you can challenge yourself, and I like that. It's not that you have to be spending 5 years training for an event. you can take it on and be successful with that. Now, I do have to say though, you came from a very successful athletic background. What was your sport background?
Yeah, I'm actually a tennis player by trade. So I played juniors, I played in college, I played Division I. I was a first team all conference player. So that's my sport. So and I still play league, you know, a couple months out of the year. I play old men's league and I hold my own and I'm competitive. But I also enjoy learning new things. So triathlon, and I'll actually tell you if you want how I even started in triathlon. It's quite a pretty neat story. When I was 21 years old, I lived in Hawaii at the time. I was in college playing tennis. And I met this guy, John Boware, and he was 45 years old at the time. I met him. He was a friend of mine's father, and he had just done an Ironman. And here I am, a 21-year-old guy. And this guy says, you know, I just did an Ironman. I said, well, how old are you? He goes, I'm 45. I'm like, you're a dinosaur. You know, how can you do an Ironman triathlon at 45 years old? I said, you know, that's pretty badass. And he says, yeah, you know, I did it. I said, but you know what, John? I'm going to one-up you. When I am 46, you know, 25 years from now, I am going to do an Ironman triathlon and I'll be more badass than you. So fast forward 25 years and I'm here in Las Vegas, and I never forgot that. I never forgot his name, never forgot the story. So when I turned 45, I told my wife, you know, I got to start training for an Ironman triathlon. And she's like, what? You know, it's like, wow, where is this coming from? You know, you're like, why didn't you do it
20 years ago, whenever I said I was going to?
Well, she wasn't with me, you know, we were together, you know, for 7 years at the time. So I'm like, yeah, I made this decision 25 years ago and blah, blah, blah. And so here I am, I got to start training. So I did. I did not. I never, guys, owned a bicycle with gears until I started training for triathlon.
That's awesome.
I had a BMX, you know, the one that you pedal and then to brake, you pedal backwards.
Yeah.
That's what I had as a teenager. So I didn't know how to ride a bike with gears. I did not know how to swim. I detested running. You know, I'm a tennis player. We run for 15 seconds and then we take a break. And then we take a break every 5 minutes to sit down and drink water. So, you know, it was all new to me, but yeah, so that's the beginning. So I did a sprint. Then I did, you know, I did St. George 70.3, which was the worst idea one can have, is have the first 70.3 being
sprint to St. George. Yeah.
Yeah. No Olympic, nothing, just sprint to St. George. Nearly died in St. George. And yeah, and then actually a year and a half later, 18 months later, I did Ironman Santa Rosa.
Okay,
and
now
that was my phone.
Before you go any further than that, and before I forget, and you know, you went from 0 to Ironman. How did you keep from breaking? And this is something that's near and dear to my heart. Okay, because when I up my anything, I break. You know, something gets hurt. How do you know? What's your secret to that?
The secret and not is, you know what? I never said I didn't get injured. I just push through the pain. Now, of course, if I had broken a bone and I'm incapable of running, that's one thing. But yes, and that's one thing I've kind of learned with triathlon. And by all accounts and purposes, I consider myself a beginner triathlete. Okay, I'm not a triathlete by trade like John is. I'm just a guy who wanted to do one Ironman as a bucket list because of something I decided, you know, when I was 21 years old. But there's always pain, it seems, when I train for triathlon. So it's a difference of, is this something that I should stop training? And again, I'm still learning about my body, or can I still go on and it's just muscle pains? And because I don't think I am ever pain free. And now that I'm training for, you know, I'm scheduled to do Ironman Barcelona on October 3rd. I changed completely my training from what it used to be when I did my first Ironman and when I did my, you know, my 570.3s and my sprints. The training I did then and the training I'm doing now, if you guys want to go more into it, we can.
Oh, yes.
It's completely different. And again, it's like an experimental type of training. So I'm not suggesting anybody do it, and the result will show this weekend to begin with, and then when I do my full. But yeah, it's I've totally tweaked, you know, how I'm going about it. But to answer your question, I don't think, you know, I just kept pushing through it. You know, a week before my full Ironman, I was getting, you know, needling when they put the needles in your muscles, because I was in so much pain in my legs that I would try anything. And
is it in your legs, your muscles, or your joints?
It was my hamstring mostly.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I tried everything, but the race, I was gonna do it one way or another. That's just my personality. If I had to crawl to the finish line, I would have. It didn't come to that, but yeah. So I just pushed through it, Bob. You know, as long as it's not a full-on injury, like where really, you know, a doctor says you got to take time off. I don't think I've ever been pain-free while training.
Oh, that's neat. Well, that's great. Now I want to go back to your beginnings in triathlon, because it was pretty accelerated, that zero to epic mentality. So talk us through the first race that you did as a sprint. How did you feel when you said you didn't know how to swim? You were at that point, did you own a bike at that point, or were you still borrowing, or what was
Yeah, so anyway, so first I wanted to find a coach, right? Because that's the first thing you do is, well, how am I going to become a triathlete? So I was talking to my cousin in Brazil, and he says, listen, there's this guy that I went to school with who lives in San Diego, and he is a triathlon coach. And I said, give me his number. So I called him up and I said, hey, you know my cousin, or like family friends, blah, 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 you know? And he was like, yeah, I remember you. I said, listen, I want to do an Ironman triathlon. He goes, you know, I'll train you. So he says, we start tomorrow, and we start with swimming. So he sends me this swim, you know, plan. I hadn't swam since I was like 9, you know, like, and it's 2,100 meters this guy sends me to do on my first day.
But he assumed you could swim.
I told him I can't swim, right? So, I mean, this guy is killing me. So anyway, so long story short, a month later, I fire him. I'm like, I can't, you know, he's killing me. I mean, this guy is like, I'm a complete beginner. But anyway, I buy a bike. I buy a Specialized Shiv, the $3,000 one, not the S-Works, nothing, just like a Specialized Shiv. I buy that bike, and I sign up for HITS in Indian Wells, December. So HITS Indian Wells Sprint December. So I go, and people are like, you know, why are you driving all the way to Indian Wells for an hour-and-a-half race? But I was like, you know what?
52-degree lake.
Yeah, Bob, I didn't know that. So here's the deal, right? So I get there, my wife and I, we drive down there. I'm all nervous, excited. And they have to decontaminate your suit. If you ever raced Indian Wells, and I've done the 70.3s over there, the day before, because of the lake or whatever, they need to decontaminate your suit. So they dunk your suit in this pool, and then they give it back to you. Then the next day you race in it. So they dunk my suit in the pool. I take it back to the hotel, and I hang it to dry, right? So the next day I wake up, it's like 50 degrees outside. The water's like 52, but I never turned the suit inside out. Because I don't know that you're supposed to turn the suit inside out. So
I have heard of people putting their suit on backwards and trying a triathlon, but not inside out.
So I get to the race, and my suit is soaking wet. It's so cold. The water's freezing. I try to put this thing on all wet. I'm already hating triathlon, right? I haven't even started racing yet.
And that wears you out.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. It was a disaster. But I did the race. I remember I finished in 4th place in my division, which awesome. I was very happy with. So that was the water was just frigid. Well, here's go on.
No, so it was a tough start, but at what point did it ever seem like fun during that race, or were you just like, this is gonna take a lot?
Yeah. Did you suffer the entire race, or did it get easier?
You know, I remember. Okay, so I come out of the water, right? I mean, this is funny stuff. I come out of the water, and I go put my helmet on, but my hands are frozen.
Yeah, that's right. Your hands don't work coming out of that water. I did that. So
I have my helmet hanging on my bike. but it's clasped and I can't feel my hands. So I can't unclasp the stupid helmet. So I'm like, I can't go on. So I take my teeth. I'm like, I'm biting it. It finally cracks open, right? I put my helmet on, but I can't shut it down.
Oh, no.
I just start riding with my helmet just unclasped, just on top of my head. Off I go.
But you learned how to change gears before then, I take it.
Well, yes, I learned how to change gears. And,
this is quite the start. Okay, so now the swim was pretty torturously cold.
Yeah.
Now you're on the bike. Your helmet is whatever.
Yeah, it's just wiggling. It's wiggling all over the place.
Yeah. So now, what happened on the run?
I remember being fast on the bike. I did pass a lot of people. I was freezing, because I was still cold from the water. But I remember passing a lot of people. I couldn't feel my feet. The run was okay. It's a sprint run. I did okay. I was happy to have finished. I can't say it was like super enjoyable, but it was a fun experience. And my next race after that was St. George.
Wait, before let's go back. Had you practiced a brick? Had you practiced running off of the bike?
I had practiced, yes, but remember,
what was it like coming off the bike and running for your first time?
It was fine. I only trained for 2 months because I started in October training, and I trained October, November, then early December was the race. So I had 2 months training, and then I did my first sprint.
Wow.
So, but I've never had trouble running off the bike. One thing that I did learn from my later races is that I run really fast off the bike because my legs, and John may relate to this. I mean, it feels like I'm doing like 7:30, and I'm a 9 to 10 minute mile runner when I do 70.3s and full Ironman. But I get out of the bike and I'm doing 7:30 thinking that my watch is wrong. I'm like, how can I be running so fast and I feel great for a mile, right?
You're natural.
Yeah. And then, of course, then you start studying it, like they say, no. It's because your leg is moving so fast from the bike that when you get on the run, you still are moving that fast. And you're like, oh, I'm feeling great, and I'm running super fast, but it only lasts. And you're basically burning all your matches. And so I've learned to slow down.
I love this story, Alex. We talked about this. I love this story because this is clearly just getting into triathlon, but you've got this bigger goal of doing this Ironman even at this stage. So I'm curious, as you finished, any wavering in achieving that goal at that point, or were you pretty still in on that?
Were you still stoked?
No, it's happening. Yeah. And people that know me, and they know that once, just like my ride across, I'm the first person ever to cross the United States on an electric scooter, deemed impossible, by the way. People said physically it's impossible, but once I commit, it's happening. So no, at no point ever did I think, oh, maybe I shouldn't do a full Ironman. It was going to happen.
I love it. That's such a strong mindset. I mean, that's really carrying you forward. And I take it, that was just honed in from the beginning and playing tennis, and then, bringing that athlete mentality to racing.
Yeah, it's, and that's just my mentality. Once you commit, you got to see it through no matter what. And I find it unbelievable the things that I've achieved in life and the things I've done just because of that. Just if you put it in your head that it's going to happen, you'll find a way. And I think most people quit too soon or give up or don't even begin because they think things are so out of reach. And I don't mean to sound like a motivational speaker, but that's just how I've lived my life. And I've done wonderful things.
No, it is very motivational. It's great to hear this story of just, one, get the right mindset, and then everything else starts to fall in place. It was really fantastic. Okay, so now you finish this first race, you go on to some 70.3s. maybe do you want to? I don't know. Should we jump forward to the full Ironman now? I mean, that's what.
Let's do St. George. Let's talk
Okay.
about St. George. Okay, so
Yeah,
St. George. The others were okay. I did 2 Arizona 70.3s, 2 Indian Wells 70.3s. I finished them all between 5.5 and 6 hours, which is, is about average. And I'm very much a middle of the pack triathlete. I'm not great. I'm not terrible. I'm always right in the middle. But St. George was quite something, obviously, right? It's something no matter what level you're at. So I did the swim, was great. I did the bike, was great. The run, I started feeling not very, very good. And I didn't know a thing about nutrition. That's another issue that I've had. And I started feeling really sick during the run. Like from the get, like 3 miles into it, I was not well. And long story short, I walked probably half of it, and that took me 2 hours and 45 minutes to finish. And I honestly thought I was gonna be taken out in an ambulance. I mean, and I'm pretty good with pain, but I was not well. And turns out that I had it was lack of sodium, because I saw a doctor afterwards, and I did finish the race. It was a lack of sodium that I had, and I didn't even know about the sodium, the salt pills or anything like that. And I was so ill that I didn't want to take any Gatorade because I was gonna throw it up. So I just kept drinking water through the whole race. Yeah, which made matters even worse, because it dilutes the little bit of salt that I have.
You are lucky. You're lucky. People die from that, Alex.
Well, I understand that, and when I saw, when I saw my doctor the next day, I called him the same day. I said, "This is what happened," and he knew exactly what happened. And people die from that. So when I say I nearly died, and when I finished the race, I crossed the finish line. I told my wife I need to lay down, and I just laid on the grass right there for a good 30 minutes. And like I was like borderline, like get me, to a hospital or something.
Lucky your heart didn't stop.
Yeah, so that was dangerous. It was a lesson learned. But that's what triathlon is, right? There are so many parts, and that's lessons. One of the things that so many lessons, so many things you need to know, and nutrition is such a so important part of especially long distance triathlon. But I enjoy that, I enjoy all these different parts and learning about it and getting better. And but it's definitely, I don't necessarily recommend. I did do a full Ironman, but I didn't learn a whole lot. It was more, I muscled a full Ironman as opposed to becoming a better triathlete and knowledgeable triathlete. So that's why now I'm doing things a little bit differently. I'm actually taking steps back, and we can talk about that, learning more about each discipline, learning about running, learning about cycling, like real cycling, like road cycling, learning about swimming, not just trying to do as much as possible, as quickly as possible, so I can get that notch on my belt.
I think that's great. But again, I go back to, I could just, I'm sitting here, I'm just seeing this strong will and strong mindset to deal with any challenge in front of you. And again, I'm going to ask the question, but I already know the answer. You're lying on the ground after St. George, hyponatremic, obviously, and any wavering at that point in terms of the Ironman? No,
never. See,
get a bigger hammer, right? That's your approach. Get a bigger hammer approach.
Yeah, just get a bigger hammer. Obviously Lionel Sanders, you guys know, he's just a freak of nature, but I can somewhat relate to his mindset because I will go, like, I'm willing to die for it. Like he's willing to die for it. Yeah. I am. I don't have, and people, oh, you're irresponsible, you have children, blah, blah, blah. But I will go as far as I need to go. And, but they say, but did you die? No, I did, so I lived to see another day, but no, never did I think, all it was is like, what did I learn? Right. So I bought the little base, the little base salt, base performance salt, little things. And I race and I put some on my tongue. But that's another learning lesson. But again, I think it was maybe part of too much too soon. And I, I was on this mission. My goal was Ironman. I could care less about a 70.3. I was like, I need to become an Ironman. And so I learned that lesson, and it was almost a very costly lesson, but it never happened again. My races got better, and eventually I got to the full.
Yeah, no, that's just really amazing. I'm just such a strong, mindset, and I can see that athlete in you coming out. Okay, so now you get to Santa Barbara and
Santa Rosa,
and how'd that go?
That went well. It went well. I was, hurting a little bit from training, but I was prepared. I didn't have any goal expectations, and I say that, but it's probably not true because I always have a goal expectation. The swim was good. It's beautiful. It went fine. And for those interested, it took me about an hour and 1:24 to do the swim, which for me is, again, right down the middle, very, very average. The bike, I suffered on the bike. I had my tri bike. I've never been comfortable on a tri bike in aero position. Something about my neck and my trapezius, I always hurt. So, I tried to be in aero position, but I was only in aero for the photographer. Like everybody around me. It's the funniest thing, John, and I'm sure you've seen it. Everybody is on the top. They see a photographer. You see everybody one by one.
That's right. That look good.
So anyway, so 6 hours.
Guilty.
6 hours and 20 or something like that. I finished the bike, and I was in a lot of pain, a lot of pain when I finished the bike. And I say that casually, but it was enough. I had enough back pain and neck pain and shoulder pain that I wondered if I even was gonna do the run. I mean, I was very, very much hurting. So I asked my wife, who I saw at T2, I said, you got to find me some Advil or something for pain, because I can't do a marathon like this. So I sat in T2 for 15 minutes, contemplating my life and what I was going to do and how I was going to finish this Ironman. So I sat there, finally decided, let's do it. We've come this far. And, so I started running, and one thing I did in the run, which not a lot of people talk about because people aren't really proud that do this, but I did a run walk, which, I kid you not, I did run walk, and I finished my marathon in 4.5 hours.
Yeah, that's great.
Alex, a run walk is a strategy most people use.
Yeah, but I don't think they use it wisely. I think I don't know if they use it, properly, but I did. I started, I said, you know what, instead of trying to run it, let's switch gears. I told myself, give me, 4 minutes of running, and then we take a break. Another 4 minutes. And, so I went, and I 100% recommend it, for somebody that isn't a strong runner. It worked.
I mean, that's really amazing that on the fly, you figured that out, on the fly, and figured that you adapted in order to finish instead of just trying to run the whole thing and going out. I mean, that's learning on the fly. That's amazing. That you did that.
It was the only way. And there are so many benefits to it. And I want to elaborate a little bit on the walk run, because maybe some people don't know about it. But after I finished, one of the things that it does is it keeps you busy, because it's such a long run and it's such a long day. So you're always looking at the watch, and there's always something to look forward to. So instead of being this big war, it's like tiny little battles, so it's
that's a great way to put it.
You break it into chunks. So it's like a bunch of little races instead of just one 26.2 mile run. So you're looking at the clock, you're like, okay, 4, then you walk, then you do 4, and then you walk 4. Next thing you know, you don't even see the mile markers because you're so busy looking at your watch. And next thing you're at 7 miles, 8 miles, 12 miles, 14 miles. You're like, hey, this keeps going. And all you do is you just get 4. You just have to get 4. All your focus is 4 minutes, 4 minutes running. Come on, let's go. And then you keep looking at the watch. And then
how long did you walk in between? What was your walk timing?
It's 4 minutes in 1 minute.
1 minute.
4 minutes running, 1 minute walking. And the run, I'm going to say, was like, between 9 and 10-minute miles, nothing crazy. I wasn't sprinting. It was just a nice. And then after a minute is over, you got to hold yourself accountable. You're like, hey, now you got to give me another
Go
4.
time.
Yeah, because what I see, and John obviously has been doing this for decades and knows much better than I do, is I see a lot of people running, but then they start walking towards the second half of the marathon, but they just continue walking, right? There's no goal. They're like, well, I'll start running when I feel good again. Then they run a little bit, and then they start walking again. And run walk is like, hey, 4 minutes, that's the goal. Just 4 minutes at a time. And and you started from the very beginning. You can't decide to do 4-1 13 miles in. Apparently it doesn't work that way. It works best when you started from the very beginning. So you start, you're like, oh man, I'm already walking. Yep, you're already walking. 4 minutes on, 1 off. 4 minutes on, 1 off.
How did you determine that periodicity? How did you arrive at 4 and 1?
I had studied it prior to the race. I hadn't done it anywhere. I hadn't done any of my 70.3s. I just ran them all. But I always had it as like a backup, and I knew about it. And I said, worst case, if I need to resort to walk, run, I will do it. But I didn't have well, if I'm going to do it, I need to do so many minute miles, for the 4 minutes. I just said, I'm just going to go by feel. However, I can keep going. And I decided that between 9 and 10, sometimes a little bit more. But when I actually, because I also walked the aid station. So I was doing 4-1 plus walking the aid station. So it wasn't like exactly a, 20%, 80%. When I looked at my Garmin numbers after the race, I actually walked about a third of the whole marathon, and still finished in 4:34.
That's fantastic. Yeah,
I was thrilled with.
Yeah. So this is, you're spot on with this advice, and I hope anyone who's listening absorbs it, because it is really good. Now, I am curious though, because we're a little over our time that we said we'd keep you. Time. We could go on forever. I want to get to that finish line and what you were thinking in terms of your goal of doing the Ironman at 46.
I felt great, and I finished in my exact time was 12:43. Yeah. Of course, my goal was 12, which was unrealistic. But considering I took, between the T1 and T2, I took almost 25 minutes. It was actually my transition time. So that didn't help me. But nevertheless, it felt great to finish. Of course, the energy you get right in the last half mile, it's like you're fresher than you were when you started the day, right? You see that finish line, and it's the most amazing feeling. And my kids were there, my wife was there, and it's a feeling like none other. You feel like you've done something that so few people have done it. And for me, it was a goal that I set obviously 25 years before then, and felt great, man. And I tell you, being an Ironman, and I tell people that that I meet that are on their way or training for one, you become part of this fraternity, which is worldwide, right? So I'm wearing my Ironman cap somewhere. I'm in another country, and during my trip scooting across America, I saw people in Ironman gear, and I've run into people in France. I've run into people in Brazil, and they're like, "Hey, you did an Ironman," and they're like, "Hey, you're their brother from a past life or something," and it's so fun. It's really gratifying. But of course, I did one, and that was supposed to be the end of my Ironman, my triathlon life. But I want to do 2.
That's awesome.
Now, and who knows? Maybe it'll become 3. And I just love training. I love training. I have to say though, I don't enjoy swimming, biking, or running. It's not my thing, and I am a much, much better tennis player than I'll ever be a triathlete. But I don't care, you know.
Yeah.
To me, it's about overcoming goals,
Yeah.
and I can look great on a tennis court on the weekends, but I prefer being a very ordinary triathlete, and
Well,
going.
I love your story,
Love the
and just the mindset of going from what you experienced in the sprint to 70.3 to continue with that goal, that singular goal to get that finish line was really, really inspirational. Now, you are a really good tennis player, and even Rick posted in the comments here about playing Andre Agassi. So maybe,
Yes, I did play him. And of course, the next question is, did you beat him? It was a doubles match. And I did beat Andre Agassi.
Yeah, that's the level of tennis player.
How many people can say that?
No, not many people. That's probably the highlight of my life, is playing him. But obviously, I'm nowhere near his level. It was just a weekend game. But playing against your idol, you know, he was my idol growing up, was something else. But anyway, that's that.
And that's the level of athlete that you are and have been through. And I see that mindset coming through, and it's really neat to see you challenge yourself. And it really does look like, you know, triathlon is a way for you to test your limits. And I tell you what, this theme that you have of epic to zero is really it's a lifestyle. It's not a singular event, and it's really impressive. So, Alex, great talking with you. Great to hear your zero epic across the country story as well as your triathlon story. This is really fantastic.
That's a excellent
Thanks for having
story.
me, guys. Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to interview me, and I hope it was somewhat entertaining.
And
inspirational.
Hey, we're going to give a shout out to your wife for the shelves in the background too.
Yeah,
Stephanie, that's awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, she'll be happy with that. This was a lot of work, man. I mean, but she's doing the whole house, and
beautiful.
Yeah, that's what she likes to do. That's her epic project.
Well, you've got a special woman there that she's doing all these projects and letting you go out on your bike and ride every weekend. That's a special woman.
Well,
we all have them.
You know, it's great that you mentioned being part of the Ironman community. Well, we're proud that you're part of our community, and it's really inspirational to hear your story and some great advice too. So, Alex, thanks so much.
Thank you, Alex.
And I promise to be more present on. You know, I just came back to triathlon, so I'm like the ghost Las Vegas Triathlon Club member, but I promise to show up more so in the future races.
It's good. You're a big part of the community, so thank you. All right.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you.